We've got Jane here beside me now.
Hello.
Hi Jane, welcome. We're just going to look at the Reid Research, the TV3 poll, which is just out. It's got the Nats at 46 down 1.5, Labour at 37 down half, New Zealand First and the Greens both on 7. The gap is 9% between National and Labour, which is exactly the same as Colmar Brunton last night. What do you think about this?
So I think what we're starting to see now is those polls settle down a little bit as election day nears. I think people are starting to obviously make up their mind through the tumultuous time over the last couple of weeks as we've seen the debates about policy and about personalities and dirty politics and everything that we've talked about. So it seems to be settling down. And of course, among all of this, we've had those huge numbers of advance votes, which is another really interesting dynamic in this campaign as well.
The conventional wisdom is, and as we know from all sorts of examples, Trump versus Clinton, when we were told Clinton was going to win, Brexit versus non-Brexit, when we were told Brexit didn't have a chance, that the predictions and the tea-leaf reading and the polling is not always reliable, but the conventional wisdom is Labour need the youth vote to turn out. Now, what we're looking at, the formal enrolment figures, is that they're not as high as Labour would hope. But you've told me that there may be a way we're not actually seeing how many young people have enrolled. Can you explain that?
That's right. So at the advanced voting booths, and this is the first time you've been able to do that in this election, is you can go up, enrol and vote on the same day in the same process. So Labour's hope is that actually the enrolment figures, and especially young voters, are being disguised in those actual advanced votes figures that we're not actually seeing as part of the enrolment figures from the Electoral Commission. So what they're hoping is that youth vote will actually be reflected and obviously for the actual votes as well, that will favour them, because it's not just the youth vote, it's turnout. Higher turnout always tends to favour the left, so that is what they are hoping for. Maybe a slim hope, given these polls that really have them now slipping behind National again.
And we need to remind young people who may be listening thinking, oh, I'll pop in and enrol and vote on Saturday. You can't enrol and vote on Saturday, can you? You can only vote on Saturday, you can't enrol. You can enrol and vote tomorrow being Friday.
That's right, there is one day left where you can go and enrol and vote. And of course, Jacinda Ardern a couple of weeks ago went in and early voted herself, and she wanted to raise the awareness for people. I think there was something like 26,000 people who got to polling day in 2014 and couldn't actually vote because there'd been some problem with the enrolment. So the strategy there was to remind people, or get people at least to the polling booth, so they knew they were enrolled, they could cast their vote and not leave it too late, because come Saturday you can't do anything about it and you are literally unable to cast your vote.
Let's go back to this Reid Research poll. So the Nats 46, Labour 37, the 9-point gap. The Greens and New Zealand First both on 7. Now we know the Greens, you add that to Labour's total, so that takes Labour up to 44. Nats 46, Labour Greens 44. Winston Peters is sitting there saying, come to Papa, right?
He is, and this is consistent with RNZ's polar polls, and that was the feature of the most recent one, and that was that neither National nor Labour could form a government without New Zealand First. Even when you take into account the other parties, the support parties, they are not high enough in support to be able to get either of them over the line. So it rests with Winston Peters. And I think both the Greens and New Zealand First will be happy with these results. They have both bounced up and down, up and around that 5% threshold, of course, that parties without an electorate seat need to get into Parliament. I think they'll be quite heartened by the 7%. It really just lifts them above the danger zone. And what it does, it gives people who are thinking about voting for them the confidence that their vote won't be wasted. So I think they'll be quite happy with these, as well as potentially in positions of support too when it comes to post-election deals next week.
Jane, I'm giving you a really mischievous smile, and you know that's because I'm going to ask you which way Winston Peters would go. If the polls are right and he is the politician, his party, New Zealand First, determines who becomes government. And I know this is the toughest question in New Zealand politics, really, isn't it? Because he's gone with National, he's gone with Labour. He went with National, he went with Jim Bolger, of course, when he said he wouldn't. Have you any idea which way he's thinking?
No. And he brushes us off every single time we try and we ask him, and we still put it to him. Every election, every week we say, who are you going to go with? Give us some indication. And he scorns us, tells us to stop asking stupid questions. He'll basically go with, I think, whichever party would give him the best deal, to be quite blunt about it. He has never, certainly in this term, expressed his favoured party. There are obviously pros and cons in terms of National. You're looking at a third-term administration, really under pressure on things like housing and poverty. Do you want to be aligned with a fourth-term administration? But then you potentially have issues of a mandate with Labour and the Greens, even as a bloc, that you hitch your wagon to a party that didn't actually get the majority vote. And there's been a bit of talk about the convention, and some people have put it as a constitutional convention,
That's
which
bollocks,
there is
isn't it?
not.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's a political convention in terms of how some MPs see it. And that's not how every MP sees it. And we are in an MMP parliament. Whoever can get across the line can form a government. So it's a convention that Mr Peters has talked about in terms of speaking to the party with the largest vote. And in fact, Andrew Little alluded to that when he resigned, that at 24%, he didn't have a mandate to even start negotiating for a government, which was one of the reasons that he stepped down. So...
Woo! It's going to be a fascinating night, Saturday night, isn't it?
Sure is.
Jane Patterson, I really look forward to working with you here in the studio. Jane Patterson, our political editor. Thank
Thanks,
you
John.
very much
Thanks
indeed
to
for...
you.
Yeah, by golly, yes.